The message came on a Tuesday. For decades, humanity had sent signals into the depths of space, hoping for a response. They built massive radio telescopes, launched probes with golden records, and scanned the skies for any sign of intelligent life. Then, without warning, it happened, not as a faint radio signal or mysterious object, but as a perfectly translated message appearing simultaneously on every communication device on Earth. Greetings, humans of Earth. The Galactic Council acknowledges your civilization. Prepare for diplomatic contact. 3 days later, a sleek vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere, landing on a hastily prepared site outside the United Nations headquarters in New York. News cameras from around the world captured the moment when the ship's doors slid open, revealing beings unlike anything humans had imagined. There were tall, willowy creatures with iridescent skin, stocky beings with multiple arms and eyes that seemed to look in all directions, and others that moved like liquid mercury. The leader of the delegation introduced himself as Counselor Drell of the Meridians. He explained that the Galactic Council consisted of 17 advanced species that had formed an alliance for trade, knowledge exchange, and mutual protection. Your world has been monitored since your first radio transmissions, Drell told the hastily assembled world leaders. Your progress has been noteworthy. James Walker, a seasoned diplomat known for his calm demeanor, was quickly appointed as Earth's ambassador to the Council. At 52, with gray touching his temples and lines of experience marking his face, Walker had negotiated some of the most difficult treaties between warring nations on Earth. Our people are eager to join the galactic community, Walker said during the first formal meeting. We have much to learn, and perhaps some things to offer as well. Drell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Indeed, your species' adaptability is impressive. However, the Council has concerns about your history. What concerns? Walker asked. Your wars, replied a bulbous creature called Vin. No other species has fought itself so frequently or with such intensity. It is troubling. Walker nodded slowly. We have a complex history, yes. But look at our recent decades: international cooperation, peaceful resolution of conflicts, scientific advancement for the benefit of all. The Council members exchanged looks that Walker couldn't interpret. After hours of discussion, they agreed to begin the process of Earth's admission to the Galactic Council. Over the next month, humans learned about faster-than-light travel, energy production methods centuries beyond Earth technology, and medical advances that could extend human lifespans significantly. Markets soared, religions grappled with the new reality, and humanity began to see itself not as divided nations, but as a single planetary civilization. What the public didn't see were the closed-door sessions where Council representatives assessed humanity's potential threat level. They have moved from primitive weapons to nuclear bombs in less than 1 century, noted Zell of the Arviks, his scaled skin shifting color with his concern. Their fiction is filled with scenarios where they defeat more advanced alien species, added Vin, waving a tentacle at a holographic display showing scenes from human movies and books. Drell raised a slender hand. Yet they clearly desire peace. Their ambassador Walker speaks eloquently of cooperation. All predators can be peaceful. Until they are hungry, said Trelk, representing the Trilaxians. His metal-like body reflected the room's lights as he moved. I propose restrictions on their expansion and technology transfer. Agreed, said the others, one by one. When Ambassador Walker signed the treaty bringing Earth into the Galactic Council, he believed it represented humanity's greatest achievement. The ceremony was broadcast worldwide, with celebrations erupting on every continent. Humans looked to the stars with new eyes, seeing not empty space, but a community they were now part of. Walker didn't notice the subtle clauses limiting Earth's military capabilities or restricting certain research areas. He didn't question why the most advanced technologies were classified as not currently suitable for human implementation. As the alien delegation prepared to depart Earth, Counselor Drell pulled Walker aside for a private word. Your people have great potential, Ambassador. The path of peace you have chosen is wise. Walker smiled. It's the only logical path for advancement. Drell's four eyes blinked again, this time in perfect unison. Let us hope you continue to believe so. As the council ship rose into the sky, the cheering crowds below had no idea they had just entered a game where the rules were written by others, and where humanity's remarkable capacity for adaptation would soon be tested in ways no one could imagine. 5 years passed quickly for humanity. The stars, once distant points of light, became destinations. Human colonies sprouted on 7 new worlds, each carefully selected from the limited options the Council permitted. These weren't the best planets. Those were already claimed, but humans made them work. Admiral Kate Wilson stood on the observation deck of the EDF Guardian, Earth's largest warship. At 45, with her dark hair always in a tight bun and sharp eyes that missed nothing, Wilson had once commanded a fleet of 30 vessels. Now she had only 8. Status report, she said to her second-in-command. All systems normal, Admiral. The Trilaxian patrol ship is maintaining distance as required by treaty. Wilson nodded but said nothing. The disarmament agreements had cut Earth's military to a defensive minimum. The Council called it a standard requirement for new members. Wilson called it something else in private. 300 million miles away, General Marcus Reed walked through a vast underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. At 60, with a body still fit from decades of military service and a face weathered by both Earth's sun and alien worlds, Reed had been tasked with preserving Earth's military knowledge. Is the archive complete? He asked the technician beside him. Yes, sir. Every strategy, every weapon design, every battle tactic from human history, stored and sealed as ordered. Reed placed his hand on the secure vault door as it closed. Let's hope we never need to open this again. The general believed in peace, but he also believed in preparation. On New Terra, the largest human colony, Dr. Alan Brooks adjusted his glasses as he studied the data on his screen. At 38, with perpetually messy brown hair and a mind that worked faster than his mouth, Brooks had specialized in resource management. What he saw troubled him. The numbers don't add up, he muttered to his assistant. Our mining operations on the eastern continent should be yielding 30% more than reported. Could it be equipment failure? His assistant asked. Brooks shook his head. For the 3rd time this year. No, something else is happening. He pulled up satellite images of the region taken at night. There, in the darkness, lights moved where no human operations existed. The Council had assured Earth that New Terra was exclusively for human development. The images suggested otherwise. Brooks compiled his findings and sent them to Earth. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Walker presented them at the Galactic Council headquarters, a massive space station orbiting a neutral star. The evidence clearly shows Trilaxian mining operations on New Terra, Walker said, his voice firm but diplomatic. This violates Section 7 of our membership agreement. Councillor Trelk's metallic form shifted. Your data is flawed. Perhaps your instruments need calibration. Our instruments are functioning perfectly, Walker replied. We request an independent investigation. The council chamber hummed with quiet conversations in alien languages. Finally, Drell spoke. The council will consider your request at our next general session. That's in 6 months, Walker pointed out. The proper procedures must be followed, Drell said, his 4 eyes blinking in that unsettling unison. Walker returned to Earth empty-handed. It was the 3rd complaint dismissed or delayed that year. In his private office at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Wilson received a secure message from General Reed. The Trilaxians aren't just stealing resources, it read. They're building something. Satellite imagery shows structures consistent with weapons platforms. Council regulations prohibit this. Wilson sent her own message to Walker. Diplomatic options are failing. Request permission to increase patrols near New Terra. Walker's response came hours later. Permission denied. The Council would view it as aggression. Continue monitoring only. That night, Wilson couldn't sleep. She stood by her window, looking at the stars. "They're testing us," she whispered to herself, "seeing how much we'll tolerate." On New Terra, Dr. Brooks installed his own monitoring devices around the suspected Trilaxian sites. He was careful, using old technology that wouldn't trigger alien sensors. What he saw confirmed his fears. The Trilaxians weren't just taking resources, they were preparing for something bigger. "They think we're blind," he told his small team, "or too afraid to act." None of them knew that on the Trilaxian homeworld, a war council was meeting. Images of human colonies flickered across their displays. "The humans continue to submit to restrictions," one commander noted. "They value their council membership too much to risk conflict. Their military is minimal," another added, "and the council will not intervene in what they'll view as a minor border dispute." The Trilaxian leader, his metal-like skin gleaming under the harsh lights, made the final decision. "Begin preparations for the harvest operation. New Eden will be first." The peaceful facade was about to shatter. Humanity's patience had been mistaken for weakness, a deadly miscalculation that would soon change the galaxy forever. Ambassador Walker's shoes echoed loudly on the polished floors of the Galactic Council chamber. For the 12th time in 18 months, he came with evidence and formal complaints. For the 12th time, he expected little to change. "The Council recognizes Earth's representative," announced Drell, his voice weary, as if hearing a child's repeated demands for attention. "Honorable Council members," Walker began, his once smooth diplomatic tone now edged with frustration. "I present new evidence of Trilaxian operations on 3 human worlds. These are not minor border disputes. These are systematic violations of our territorial rights." The council members shifted in their seats. Some pretended to study the data. Others didn't bother with the pretense. "We have reviewed your previous claims," said Councillor Vin, tentacles waving dismissively. "Our investigation teams found insufficient evidence of treaty violations." "Your investigation teams arrived 3 months after our reports," Walker countered. By then, the Trilaxians had removed all traces of their activities. Trelk's metallic form gleamed as he leaned forward. "Perhaps humans are seeing threats where none exist, a common trait among primitive species." Walker clenched his jaw but kept his composure. 5 years of diplomatic training hadn't prepared him for being treated like a troublesome child, rather than the representative of billions of people. As Walker left the chamber empty-handed once again, his assistant handed him an urgent message. His face paled as he read it. "We need to return to Earth immediately." Back on Earth, the Emergency Council gathered in a secure underground facility. The room was silent as they watched footage from the colony world of New Eden. The images came from a single emergency beacon that had managed to transmit before being destroyed. The footage showed Trilaxian ships appearing without warning above the main settlement. There was no declaration, no demands, only the immediate deployment of harvest machines that tore through buildings and people alike. The machines didn't distinguish between structures and humans. Everything was processed, broken down, and collected. The footage ended with a final image. A Trilaxian commander standing among the ruins, speaking to someone off-screen. His translated words sent ice through the veins of everyone watching. "The humans will complain, but the Council will do nothing." They never do. Admiral Wilson slammed her fist on the table. 30,000 colonists. Gone. And for what? Resources they could have simply asked to trade for. General Reed's face was stone. Not just resources. A message. "They're showing us and the Council what they can do without consequences." President Bell, her face lined with grief and anger, turned to Walker. "How will the Council respond to this?" "They'll have to act," Walker said, but his voice lacked conviction. "An unprovoked attack of this scale." "Will they?" Wilson interrupted. "Or will they call it a regrettable incident and impose sanctions that do nothing?" Walker had no answer. 3 days later, an emergency session of the Galactic Council convened. Every member species was present, many showing signs of concern. An attack of this magnitude was rare in Council space. Walker presented the evidence with cold precision. He didn't plead or appeal to emotion. He simply showed what had happened and waited. The debate lasted for hours. Some council members expressed genuine horror. Others suggested the humans might have provoked the attack. The Trilaxians claimed they were responding to human military buildups, a complete fabrication. Finally, the vote came, 14-3 in favor of imposing minor sanctions on the Trilaxians. No reparations for the lost human lives. No serious consequences of any kind. Walker stood perfectly still, his diplomatic mask finally cracking. 30,000 lives. Families. Children. And your response is to restrict some Trilaxian trade routes for 6 months. The Council has made its decision, Drell said, not meeting Walker's eyes. We must maintain balance in the galaxy. Balance. Walker's voice rose. What about justice? The chamber went silent. Then Councillor Zerath of the Vorax spoke, his large predatory form looming over his station. Perhaps humans should understand their place in the galactic order, he said. Your species is young, untested. The strong survive in this galaxy by adapting to realities, not challenging them. Is that a threat? Walker asked quietly. It is advice, Zerath replied. Adapt or perish. That is the way of the universe. Walker looked around the chamber, at the faces of those who had welcomed Earth into their community with promises of peace and cooperation. He saw indifference, calculation, and in some, satisfaction. Without another word, he turned and left the chamber. When he returned to Earth, the waiting officials saw something new in his eyes. The diplomat was gone. In his place stood a man who had seen behind the mask of galactic civilization and found something cold and uncaring. They won't help us, he told the Emergency Council. We're on our own. President Bell nodded slowly. Then we'll help ourselves. The message from Earth to the Galactic Council was just one paragraph long. No diplomatic language. No polite expressions of regret. Simply a formal notification that Earth and all human colonies were withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. When Councillor Drell received it, he summoned Ambassador Walker for an explanation. This is most unusual, Drell said, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. No species has ever voluntarily left the Council. Walker stood before the alien with perfect posture, his face showing nothing. There's a first time for everything. The benefits of membership far outweigh. 30,000 dead citizens suggest otherwise. Walker interrupted. The benefits of your protection seem theoretical. Drell shifted uncomfortably. The Council strongly urges Earth to reconsider. Without our guidance, your development will suffer. Your colonies will be vulnerable. Walker smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Thank you for your concern. We'll take our chances. As Walker left the Council station for the last time, monitoring devices recorded his departure. What they couldn't record were the encrypted messages being sent to Earth, the location of every Trilaxian outpost near human space, the patrol schedules of their ships, and the Council's security codes that would remain valid for at least another month. Information was power, and Walker had spent 5 years collecting it. Back on Earth, changes were already happening. In orbit, the 8 ships of Earth's defense fleet underwent rapid modifications. Weapon systems previously deactivated under Council restrictions came online. New shield generators, developed in secret by Earth scientists who had studied alien technology, were installed. Admiral Wilson walked through her flagship, watching as engineers worked around the clock. How long until we're combat ready? She asked her chief engineer. 48 hours for basic systems, 2 weeks for full capabilities. Wilson nodded. Make it 1 week. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Reed stood before the sealed vault containing Earth's military archives. The President herself had authorized its opening. The Phoenix Protocol is now active, Reed told the assembled officers. Everything we've preserved, everything we've learned, it all comes out now. Across human space, mothballed factories roared back to life. designs for new ships, weapons, and defense systems, created during the 5 years of peace, but never implemented due to Council restrictions, were put into production. On the colony world of New Hope, Dr. Brooks supervised the final stages of Project Prometheus. The energy absorption rate is holding at 93%, reported his assistant. Brooks smiled as he watched the test results. When the Trilaxians had attacked New Eden, they'd used a particular type of energy weapon. For 2 years, Brooks and his team had been developing a shield that could not only block such weapons but capture and redirect their energy. "The Trilaxians think they know everything about us," Brooks said. "They're wrong." The Council, of course, noticed the sudden burst of activity in human space. Intelligence reports were compiled and discussed in emergency sessions. "They are building ships," noted Councillor Vin with concern. "Primitive vessels," Zareth of the Vorax replied dismissively. "Our analysis shows they lack the advanced guidance systems needed for effective combat. Their weapons are basic energy projectors, easily countered by our shields. Their withdrawal from the Council is mere posturing," Trelk added, his metallic form gleaming with confidence. "They hope to pressure us into reconsidering the New Eden incident." Drell wasn't so sure. "They seem different now, more determined." "They are humans," Zareth said, mandibles clicking with amusement. "Their emotions rule them. This anger will pass, and they will beg to rejoin the Council once they realize how vulnerable they are alone." The Council voted to establish a monitoring perimeter around human space, not close enough to provoke conflict, but near enough to observe. They would watch and wait for the humans to come to their senses. They didn't have to wait long for human activity, but it wasn't what they expected. Within 3 months, human ships began venturing beyond their original territories, establishing outposts on previously unclaimed worlds. These weren't colonies, they were forward bases, positioned with clear strategic purpose. "They're creating a defensive network," realized one Council military analyst. "Preparing for something." "Or against something," added another. When the report reached the Council, Trelk scoffed. "Let them build their little forts. When the time comes, they will fall quickly." The Vorax representatives agreed. Their species had a long history of conquest before joining the Council. They recognized the patterns of a species preparing for war. What they didn't recognize was how dangerous humans could be when they abandoned the constraints of peace. In his new office at Earth Defense Command, Ambassador Walker, now Strategic Director Walker, looked at the latest intelligence reports. Everything was proceeding according to plan. "The board is set," he murmured to himself, remembering an old game his father had taught him. "And they don't even know they're playing." The Vorax War Council gathered in their orbital command center. Giant view screens showed detailed images of Earth's largest shipyard, built in the orbit of Jupiter's moon Ganymede. Dozens of human vessels were under construction there. "Their military expansion continues at an alarming rate," reported Commander Grech, his scaled skin darkening with concern. "In 6 months, they will have a fleet large enough to threaten our mining operations in the Proxima sector." War Master Krell, leader of all Vorax military forces, studied the images. "Then we will not wait 6 months. We will launch a preventative operation now. The Trilaxians will support this action," added Political Officer Drav. "They have already suffered from human aggression." Krell's eyes narrowed. "We require no assistance. The glory of this victory will belong to the Vorax alone." 3 days later, a battle fleet of 30 Vorax warships entered human space. They moved with confidence, their sensors detecting no human patrols. Their intelligence had been perfect. The approach corridor was clear all the way to Jupiter. Primitive species never understand the importance of outer system defenses, Krell remarked as his flagship led the formation. They focus on protecting their homeworlds while leaving their production facilities vulnerable. As the Vorax fleet approached the Ganymede shipyard, they prepared their weapons. Their plan was simple: destroy the shipyard, eliminate the half-built human vessels, and withdraw before Earth could respond. A clean surgical strike to cripple human military development. "We are in firing range," reported the weapons officer. "Targeting systems locked on the main production areas." Krell nodded. "Fire." Energy beams lanced out from the Vorax ships, crossing the void toward the seemingly defenseless shipyard. But instead of striking their targets, the beams suddenly curved away, intercepted by defense platforms that had appeared out of nowhere, shedding the stealth fields that had hidden them. "Impossible," Krell shouted. "Our scans showed nothing." Before the Vorax could react, the defense platforms fired. Their weapons were unlike anything the aliens had seen before, not the crude energy projectors they had expected, but precise, focused beams that somehow penetrated Vorax shields as if they weren't there. 5 Vorax ships exploded in the first volley. "Evasive maneuvers," Krell ordered. "Return fire on those platforms." But the platforms were already moving, changing position faster than the Vorax targeting systems could track. More Vorax ships fell, their shields useless against whatever weapons the humans had developed. Then, from behind Jupiter's massive bulk, came Earth's ships. Not the 8 vessels the Council had permitted, but 20 sleek warships that moved with surprising speed and coordination. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the EDF Avenger, watching as her fleet executed the trap perfectly. "The Vorax have lost 12 ships," reported her tactical officer. "Their formation is breaking." Wilson nodded. "Open a channel to their flagship." On the Vorax command ship, Krell received the transmission with disbelief. A human female appeared on his screen, wearing a simple dark uniform with minimal markings of rank. "This is Admiral Kate Wilson of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your unprovoked attack on our territory has been met with appropriate force. You have 2 options: retreat immediately or face complete destruction." Krell snarled. "You dare threaten the Vorax? We are one of the dominant species of the Galactic Council." Wilson's expression didn't change. "You were. Now you're an invasion force that has lost nearly half its ships in less than 10 minutes. As if to emphasize her point, another Vorax vessel exploded as the defense platforms continued their relentless attack. "This is impossible," Krell muttered. "Your weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields." "Perhaps your intelligence about us was flawed," Wilson replied. "We tried peace. You chose war." The communication ended. Krell looked around his command center, seeing the fear in his officer's eyes. "Order the retreat," he said quietly. "We must inform the Council." The surviving Vorax ships turned and fled, pursued for a short distance by human vessels that could have easily caught and destroyed them, but instead allowed them to escape, to carry the message of what had happened. In the Council chamber, the news of the Vorax defeat caused chaos. Species that had dismissed humans as primitives suddenly reassessed their evaluations. "How did they develop such weapons without our knowledge?" demanded Councillor Vin. "More importantly," added Drell, "what will they do next?" The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Within days, human forces struck at every Trilaxian mining operation in former human territory. Each attack was swift, precise, and overwhelmingly successful. The Trilaxians, who had expected to face primitive human technology, found themselves outmatched at every turn. In what became known as the 7-Day Campaign, humanity reclaimed all their stolen territories. They didn't stop there. Human ships pushed forward, establishing new bases at strategic points that effectively cut off Trilaxian expansion routes. On Earth, President Bell addressed the global population. "We sought peaceful cooperation with the galactic community. Instead, we found exploitation and indifference to our suffering. Today, we serve notice to the galaxy. Humanity will defend itself, its territories, and its future. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we shy away from it." The message was broadcast not just to Earth, but to every Council world. The species that had dismissed humans as peaceful but weak newcomers now faced an uncomfortable reality. The peace had been a choice, not a necessity, and humanity had made a new choice. The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its third day. Representatives from all 17 species argued loudly, their voices echoing in the grand chamber that had once hosted orderly debates. "The humans must be stopped before they expand further," shouted the Vorax representative, his scales flushed with anger. "With what forces?" replied Councillor Vin. "Your fleet's defeat shows their technological advantage." Drell tried to maintain order, but the unity that had defined the Council for centuries was fracturing before his eyes. At the center of the debate was a holographic display showing the rapid advance of human forces. In just 2 weeks, they had secured all their former territories and established a defensive line that cut deep into what had been Trilaxian and Vorax space. "Our latest intelligence is concerning," reported the Council's military advisor. "The humans have deployed a new shield technology that renders our standard weapons almost useless." The images shifted to show a human vessel under attack. Energy weapons struck its shields, but instead of dissipating the energy or being overwhelmed, the shields seemed to absorb and redirect it. "We believe this is the work of a human scientist named Brooks," the advisor continued. "He has somehow developed what they call Prometheus shields that convert enemy weapon energy to power their own systems." Trelk's metallic form vibrated with fury. "Impossible. Such technology is beyond their capability." "Evidently not," Drell said quietly. On the front lines, Dr. Brooks watched from a secure facility as his shields performed even better than expected. Each Trilaxian attack actually strengthened the human defenses, creating a feedback loop that left alien commanders baffled and frustrated. "They still don't understand," Brooks told his team. "They think in straight lines. Attack, defend, counterattack. They've never faced an enemy that gets stronger when attacked." Meanwhile, General Reed's unconventional tactics confounded the mathematically precise Council military strategists. Where they expected human forces to focus on key strategic locations, Reed instead targeted seemingly random points that only later revealed their significance as part of a larger pattern. The Galactic Council races have fought the same way for thousands of years, Reed explained to his command staff. "They've forgotten how to adapt. We change our tactics daily, sometimes hourly." The Council fleets struggled to respond. Their battle computers, programmed with millennia of successful strategies, failed against human unpredictability. Ships arrived to defend important worlds only to find humans attacking elsewhere. Supply lines were cut in patterns that made no strategic sense until it was too late to recognize the trap. Back in the Council chamber, the first major crack in the alliance appeared when the Brel, a peaceful species known for their scientific achievements, requested a formal audience. "The Brel Confederation wishes to declare neutrality in the current conflict," their representative announced. "We have sent envoys to Earth to negotiate a non-aggression treaty." The chamber erupted in outrage. "Traitors," shouted the Vorax. "The Council stands together, or not at all," added Trelk. The Brel representative remained calm. "We have analyzed the situation objectively. The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They have reclaimed only what was theirs and established defensive positions. They have not attacked civilian targets or worlds not involved in the original conflicts. This is not the behavior of conquerors." "Not yet," Zareth warned. "But once they have consolidated their position." "Perhaps," interrupted the Brel, "we should have considered that before the Council allowed the massacre at New Eden." More species began to break ranks. The Quarians, the Eldari, and 3 other smaller Council members also announced their intention to seek neutrality agreements with Earth. With each announcement, the Council's authority diminished. Drell watched helplessly as the alliance that had maintained galactic stability for centuries unraveled in days. "We must negotiate with the humans," he finally said, "before it's too late." "Negotiate from weakness," Zareth snarled. "Never. The Vorax will increase our production of new weapon types. The humans cannot have countermeasures for weapons that don't yet exist." "The Trilaxians stand with the Vorax," Trelk declared. "We will not surrender to primitives who have merely had a stroke of luck." The council formally split. 9 species voted to seek peace with Earth. 6, led by the Trilaxians and Vorax, vowed to continue the fight. 2 abstained, watching from the sidelines to see which way the galactic winds would blow. As the council fractured, Admiral Wilson led the human fleet toward its next objective. Intelligence reports showed the Trilaxians were gathering their remaining forces to defend their homeworld, believing humans would never dare to attack such a heavily fortified system. Set course for the Trilaxian home system, Wilson ordered. Maximum speed. Her officers exchanged glances. The Trilaxian homeworld was defended by orbital platforms, minefields, and the largest concentration of warships in that sector of the galaxy. They think their homeworld is too strong to attack, Wilson said, noting their concern. That's exactly why we're going there. As the human fleet jumped to faster than light speed, emergency signals raced ahead of them through the galaxy. The mighty Galactic Council, which had stood for over 2,000 years, was no longer the dominant power in the galaxy. That title now belonged to the species they had dismissed as mostly harmless just 5 years before. The Trilaxian homeworld hung like a silver jewel against the blackness of space. Its metal-rich surface gleamed in the light of its sun, and around it orbited the most powerful defense network ever built by a council species. Thousands of weapon platforms, shield generators, and automated fighter drones formed an impenetrable barrier. Or so the Trilaxians believed. When the human fleet appeared at the edge of the system, the Trilaxian High Command prepared for a long, brutal battle. Their remaining ships formed defensive lines. Their weapons powered up. Their leaders gave inspiring speeches about fighting to the last warrior. None of them expected what happened next. Admiral Wilson's flagship moved ahead of the human fleet alone. It carried no visible weapons. Its shields were lowered. It broadcasted on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Kate Wilson of Earth. I request to speak with the Trilaxian leadership. We come with an offer, not to fight." The Trilaxians were suspicious, but curious. After brief deliberations, they agreed to receive a single human shuttle at their orbital command station. Wilson went alone, escorted by Trilaxian guards through massive corridors designed for beings of living metal. The Trilaxian leaders waited in a grand chamber, their bodies reflecting the harsh lights from above. "You face annihilation," said the Trilaxian Prime, his voice like grinding gears. "Yet you come to talk." Wilson nodded. "I come to offer you a choice." She activated a small device that projected a hologram of 2 possible futures. In one, the Trilaxian homeworld was intact, its people living and working. In the other, their planet was surrounded by debris, the remains of their once proud defense network. "We could destroy your defenses," Wilson said simply. "Our Prometheus shields would absorb the energy from your weapons and turn it against you. The more you fought, the stronger we would become. Your defeat is mathematically certain." The Trilaxian leaders shifted uncomfortably, the metal plates of their bodies scraping against each other. "But we don't want that," Wilson continued. "We want something different." The hologram changed, showing representatives of different species, human, Trilaxian, Vorax, and others, seated around a table, discussing rather than fighting. "We call it the Terran Accords," Wilson explained, "a new framework for galactic cooperation, based not on dominance, but on respect, not on exploitation, but on mutual benefit." The Trilaxian Prime's eyes narrowed. "Why should we trust you? Humans have shown themselves to be dangerously unpredictable." Wilson smiled slightly. "Says the species that massacred 30,000 of our colonists without warning." The chamber went silent. "We could have done the same to you," Wilson continued. "But we didn't. We haven't attacked a single civilian target. Even now, with your homeworld at our mercy, we come to talk. That should tell you something about who we are." The negotiations lasted 3 days. When Wilson returned to her ship, she carried with her the first signature on the Terran Accords. The Trilaxians had chosen survival over pride. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. The species that had been the first to attack humans had been the first to make peace with them. Others soon followed. On Earth, a grand ceremony marked the official establishment of the Terran Accords. Representatives from 14 species attended, including former council members and races that had remained neutral in the conflict. Notably absent were the Voraks, who had retreated to their core worlds, still defiant but increasingly isolated. Ambassador Walker, now serving as Earth's Minister of Galactic Affairs, addressed the assembled delegates. 5 years ago, Earth joined the Galactic Council believing we had found partners in peace. We were wrong. But today, we try again, not as junior members of someone else's alliance, but as equals in a new one. The Terran Accords established new principles for interstellar relations. Territorial integrity was sacrosanct. Disputes would be resolved through negotiation backed by enforceable rulings. Technology would be shared based on merit, not species status, and aggression against any signatory would be met with a united response. In a move that surprised many, Earth insisted on a special provision. Those responsible for the New Eden massacre would stand trial for war crimes. Justice delayed is still justice, Walker said when some questioned this demand. The dead deserve that much. The trials were broadcast throughout the galaxy. Former council leaders who had dismissed human complaints now faced human justice. It was firm but fair, not vengeance, but accountability. Dr. Brooks, whose Prometheus shields had changed the balance of power, declined all honors and returned to research. When asked about his invention, he simply said, "I hope it's the last weapon I ever have to create." General Reed oversaw the establishment of a multi-species defense force, teaching council races human tactics while learning from their millennia of experience. Admiral Wilson continued to lead Earth's fleet, which now patrolled not just human space but protected smaller species who had signed the Accords. 1 year after the Trilaxian surrender, Councillor Drell, now simply Ambassador Drell, requested a private meeting with Walker. "I admit, I did not understand your species," the alien said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence rather than unison, a sign of humility among his kind. "We thought your desire for peace was weakness." Walker nodded. "A common mistake. What I still do not understand is why you showed mercy when you could have claimed dominance." Drell continued. "The Voraks or Trilaxians would not have been so restrained." Walker smiled. "That's precisely why we're different. We've learned something in our violent history that perhaps your species haven't yet. The strongest position isn't dominating others. It's making a system where everyone benefits from cooperation. And if some choose not to cooperate?" Drell asked. Walker's smile faded. "Then they've seen what happens when humanity abandons peace. We prefer not to remind them." As stars twinkled in the night sky above Earth, humans looked up with new understanding. They were not alone in the universe. They were not the strongest or oldest species, but they had earned something precious, respect. And in the Grand Council chamber, now empty and silent, echoes of the past whispered a lesson that would be remembered for centuries to come. Never mistake patience for weakness. Never confuse a desire for peace with an inability to wage war. And never, ever make humanity abandon peace.